This is the story of two villagers. Despite, on the outside, being almost indistinguishable, each village was very much its own. For although they were only separated by a small stream, the residents of both refused to associate with villagers on the opposite side. On the west side of the river was the small town of St. Bumblebees. Surrounded by idyllic countryside, St. Bumblebees was quiet, charming, and famed for its signature dish, pain au chocolat. On the east side of the river was the quiet hamlet of Chipping Wickesbury. Immersed in beautiful rural scenery, Chipping Wickesbury was a gentle but pleasant hamlet, which was famous for its pastries, in particular, chocolate croissants. Each village really had very few downsides. But one thing the villagers from Chipping Wickesbury were not was from St. Bumblebees. And likewise, if you were from St. Bumblebees, even uttering the name Chipping Wickesbury would turn heads and send shivers down spines. Then, one day, everything began to change. It was a day like any other, and the residents of both villages were enjoying sitting around in the warm sunshine. Suddenly, a clunking sound rang out in the valley, and a huge shadow appeared on the horizon. As it got closer, the villagers realized it was a peculiar metal man. General Spanners from the Regional Board of Village Assessment and Critiquing, read his name tag. The villagers couldn't believe it. A prestigious arrival like this could mean only one thing. Mr. Spanners began to speak, which roughly translated to, "I am here to announce that both St. Bumblebees and Chipping Wickesbury have qualified for the annual Village of the Year competition. Judgement will begin on this day in 2 weeks' time." And with that, the metal man began to walk away. "This is wonderful!" shouted Mayor Biggsby of St. Bumblebees. "St. Bumblebees will finally have the accolade it has always deserved." "I don't think so," said Mayor Pumblechook of Chipping Wickesbury. "Chipping Wickesbury is far grander than that miserable shanty town you call a home." "Don't make me laugh," said Mayor Biggsby in retort. "Chipping Wickesbury is comparable only to the St. Bumblebees sewers." Both sides began to jeer in distaste. "Well, I guess all will become clear in 2 weeks' time." "Yes, I guess it will." And with that, both villagers set to work making preparations for Judgment Day. For St. Bumblebees, the first course of action was to install some new street lamps, as Mrs. Miggins the baker had fallen over just last week because it was too dark. To achieve this, Mayor Biggsby enlisted the help of local electrician Steve Battery, and by the time he was done, night was falling and the street lamps flickered on. Mayor Biggsby looked out at his village all aglow and felt smug. Meanwhile, Chipping Wickesbury was completely dark, and, seeing the distant lights across the river, Mayor Pumblechook was aflush with jealousy. Because of this, himself and the town lighting technician, Daisy Wattage, decided to work through the night. Before long, lamps of all different colours lit up the Chipping Wickesbury streets, creating a most beautiful scene. And, back on the other side of the river, "Those damn Chipping Wickesbys," thought Mayor Biggsby, "one-upping us again. Well, they'll see. Yes, they'll see." And he began to flick the village fuse box on and off to make the lights flicker in a dazzling pattern. "Damn and blast," said Mayor Pumblechook as he saw this light show from afar. "I'll show them, those wretched bumblebees." And the next morning, residents from both villages were gathered early in their respective village squares, filled with determination and ready to get to work. Thinking about how to further make his village attractive, Mayor Pumblechook ordered the people of Chipping Wickesbury to make a series of bakeries, upping the production of their famous chocolate croissants. Meanwhile, Mayor Biggsby was ordering the people of St. Bumblebees to construct a street full of patisseries, upping the production rate of their famous dish, pain au chocolat. In Chipping Wickesbury, Windy Miller, the local windmill keeper, suggested that with all these bakeries, people would need somewhere to sit and eat their chocolate croissants. To satisfy this, Mayor Pumblechook ordered the expansion of the town square, adding benches and seating areas for those in need of a good rest. Back in St. Bumblebees, Mrs. Miggins complained that she wanted something nice to look at whilst eating her pain au chocolat. And so, Mayor Biggsby ordered the residents to beautify their town square by building a magnificent fountain. Chipping Wickesbury responded to this by installing a koi pond, although they had to use salmon as there weren't any koi. And, whilst trying to one-up Chipping Wickesbury again, the people of St Bumblebees got carried away and filled their fountain with pufferfish. This pattern continued long into the day. Some bunting was erected in Chipping Wickesbury, some flags in St Bumblebees. Mr Secateurs the gardener trimmed some fine topiary for St Bumblebees, but Mrs Begonia of Chipping Wickesbury had produced an entire hedge maze. Furthermore, Chipping Wickesbury's landscape architect, Waverley Cabbage Patch, flattened out a new village bowling green. St Bumblebees responded as their resident games master, Trivia Trevor, directed the instalment of a croquet lawn. And by the time the day was almost up, an unbelievable amount of progress had been made on both sides. "Come on everyone, keep up the good work," said Mayor Biggsby. "We're exhausted," said Mrs Pies the baker. "My feet ache," groaned Mr Secateurs the gardener. "Down with the government," said Peter the protester, which wasn't at all relevant to the situation. It seems that Mayor Biggsby had been overworking his villagers. And on the other side of the stream in Chipping Wickesbury, Mayor Pumblechook was having a similar problem. "Don't you care?" he said in exasperation. "The judging is in less than 2 weeks." "Of course we care," replied Windy Miller the windmill keeper. "But we're only people." And it was these words that made Mayor Pumblechook realise something. He'd been so focused on beautifying the village that he'd overlooked its most beautiful aspect. Its people. The wonderful people of Chipping Wickesbury. The community that made the place so special. To win this competition, they didn't need to build new attractions. They just had to showcase the various talents of all the delightful residents that lived here. And then, Mayor Pumblechook had an even better idea. A devious idea. A devilishly devious idea. A dangerous and devilishly devious idea. If he thought the people of Chipping Wickesbury were their best selling point, then there was a high chance that Mayor Biggsby thought the same of the people of St Bumblebees. All he had to do then was a little bit of playful sabotage. Turn the people against each other, and St Bumblebees would be done for. With this, he set off by boat with a few of his most trusted subordinates, under the cover of night. There was only one small problem. At the very same time, a little bit downstream, Mayor Biggsby boarded a boat with the exact same plan.